All right, we are talking Warriors basketball today. And, we've done 3 podcasts in the feed this week, which we haven't done in quite a while. Roderick and I were back up late last night talking 49ers free agency, which has not been great, by the way. And then Brad and I were up. Brad was on his deathbed and got out of the deathbed to do a podcast, Thompson to Clark. We talked JD Davis, the Giants, playing a little hardball, business. It's sports, but it's business contract wise with him. And we're going to talk about the Warriors. I can't say that on this network, there's been a tremendous amount of good news of late. And the Warriors are the in-season team right now. And in seasons in which they are good, then this time of the year is really good for networks like ours. But I don't know. What do you think about does last night's game even count? Because that was really sad. That was a sad expose of basketball. It was hard for the eye. I can't imagine Warriors fans enjoyed watching that game. It's not fun watching a team who can't shoot. What was your takeaway from the Dallas game?
I'm still only at halftime, but I got it spoiled, and so I know what happens. But it was, I mean, it started off like kind of fun, but I think it was a game where it's like, okay, you knew that Steph and Dre weren't going to be there, and then obviously Clay just I don't know what his final stat line was, but those beginning minutes were hard to watch, and for some reason they were still in the game, so it sounded like it was going to be one of those games where Dallas saw who was missing, they decided to take their foot off the pedal just a couple, just a little bit. And then the Warriors were able to come out with momentum and just try and like keep the momentum going. And for me, the change in momentum was right when Dario Saric checked in. I feel like that's when Dallas took a lead. That's when the momentum started to got killed a little bit. But I think they actually caught back up near halftime. But I think it's tough because it's something we've been saying on this pod all year where it's like, how can you judge this team when Steph and Dre aren't there? But at the same time, it's like, we knew they might not be there. We knew that having all these old guys has has the opportunity to not play that many games. I don't think I expected this level of Draymond suspension, Chris Paul big injury, which maybe the Chris Paul big injury was expected. Last week we knocked on wood that the Steph injury wouldn't happen, and then a few days later it happens.
That was bad.
Yeah, maybe we won't do that anymore. But hey, I mean, I want to go back to that podcast. Like it was like our exit interviews for the Warriors. And I said, I didn't think Jordan Poole would be returning, but in order to replace him, you had to replace him with someone who's going to be readily available to play. Like Jordan would play like 82 games a year. You needed someone who would play like at least 70 to fill his spot. And you needed to replace his scoring too, which his replacement was CP, a guy who's not going to fit that games played thing whatsoever. I don't know what he's going to finish with at this point.
It's kind of like a meshing of CP and B pods. I think that's probably a better reflection of who his replacement actually is.
Yeah, and I you go into the second scoring option that like at his best JP was able to play those minutes with Steph and Dre, and it was just a scoring barrage from those two. And Steph and CP can't play together really. Like it doesn't look too pretty when they're out there together. And it's just we hammered in this season that they needed the second scorer, and Siakam looked like the golden target. Sure, we didn't want to give up 3 first-round picks, but now this just feels like a wasted year. And I'm not going to let myself get into like that mindset last year where we'd do a pod and they'd win 3 games and we'd be like, oh, is it turning around? And then by the next pod, it's like, oh, they just went on a 4-game losing streak. Everything's over. The world's burning. Oh, 3-game winning streak. And it was just that back and forth. And I could kind of see like this year as a very similar. They beat the Bucks. That there was this little 4-game thing last week where it was Bucks, Bulls, and double Spurs, and we were like, I personally said I thought they could beat the Bucks. They somehow always beat the Bucks at Chase, and they did it again. But like you see them beat the Bucks, and you're like, oh my god, like Chicago easy, double Spurs easy. We should be 4-0 after that little slate. Yeah, you're 2-2, and it's because the back-to-back and the guys didn't come out to play, and because of that, Steph gets injured, and it's kind of maybe avoidable way if you were up more and you lose the Bulls. First Spurs game is just awful to watch, so bad. Like, and it's just, this team it's a very similar story to last year. I feel like
So you watch way more OKC than I do. Outside of Chet, OKC's roster is pretty small, like the Warriors. When they run their lineup without Chet, how do they defend? Because the Warriors, and going back to that first Spurs game, the Warriors are so worried about getting beat to the bucket because of a lack of size. All they do is they leave corner threes wide open. And I can't imagine OKC, and now OKC is a little bit more athletic because their players are a little younger.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine OKC just leaves corners open on these rotations and goes, you know what? We're gonna dare them to shoot the three, and we're not gonna give up the two. But that's what really frustrated me in that San Antonio game. It's like, it is really clear to me that San Antonio is hot from the perimeter tonight. How about we try and shut that down? And Wemby's not even playing, so it's not like there's like this beast in the middle. And let's like force them to go down in the middle and go down in the paint or hit some mid range. Nope. Vassell, corner three, boom. Like even whatchamacall, who's the guy who was playing point guard for them, the first round
Trey
pick?
Jones. Oh,
No,
first round pick?
from last year.
Oh,
Sohan.
I get, yes, Jeremy Sohan.
Yeah, Sohan. This dude
like
has
yeah.
the ugliest jump shot, and he was hitting wide open threes. And I was just like, I don't understand. Like, why do the Warriors just they're so worried. They want to cover that middle so much. And I was just like, gosh, they're just giving up these open shots. And the even more or even worse than the fact that San Antonio makes them is they make those swing ones where it's like the Warriors creep back in and they get close, and then all of a sudden there's like 2 or 3 in a row, and you're just like, okay, this is ridiculous. Why am I even watching? But yeah, like it's that game was frustrating. The Bulls game was really interesting because my takeaway from that Bulls game is the Bulls are not a bad team.
They're not. They had just beaten Sacramento the game or two before too.
Like DeRozan is a professional scorer, and he proved that in the fourth quarter. He just kind of put the game away. Colby White is really good. Like he can shoot the three, he can penetrate. He actually reminds me a little bit of he doesn't have the hops of a Baron Davis, but the way he attacks is very Baron Davis like, and he can actually shoot better than Baron Davis. Like, I just love his aggressiveness in that game. And I thought they played really well. That was one of the games where I was like, the Warriors should win this game. But if they don't win this game, it's just going to be because the Bulls were tough and they outplayed them late. Obviously, losing Steph was a problem, and that helped the Bulls win. But this first San Antonio game, that was frustrating, but it was just because it was just like there's a clear blueprint to what they're doing, and it's working. And the Warriors are not trying to stop it; they're just hoping that they come back to the mean or to the norm. And I was like, they're hot right now. They're enjoying the, maybe it was playing chase. Was that the home game or was that the away game? That was the away
home
game, right?
is where they lost.
So the Warriors lost at home.
They did, right? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's maybe it was like they're on chase. They knew they're going to be on TV, and they're kind of fired up.
Or how about this, you bad guy? They were wide open every single time. Like, I was watching that with my buddy Eric, and Fitz is doing his thing where he's like, like they're just on fire right now. Like, I have no idea why they're on fire. Like, this is just out of the norm that they're shooting this well. They are wide open.
That's what I'm talking about.
Time. Like, you look at like a 3-point field goal percentage, like it doesn't break down like, oh, it's just an accumulation of your 3-point shots, whether it's contested, whether it's wide open, whether it's a fadeaway, it all goes under the same little stat. But I bet you if you looked at those guys wide open 3-point percentage, I bet they're all higher. And it's going to happen if you're left wide open. The
That's why I
amount of
didn't
times
understand.
Keldon Johnson found that he was wide open and he was able to hit it, it was just, are we going to close out at some point? Are we not going to help the paint like you're saying? It's just, it feels like it's down to, I mean, roster plus like ever since Mike Brown left, like, and Atkinson's taken the lead on the defensive end is just, it's felt like we don't have a great defense. And I don't know if I'm blaming Atkinson because I don't really know what goes into how that even works, but it's just
the defensive pattern for the Warriors is the way that their rotation works and how they jump out on shooters. It's like, and this is this is today's NBA, but the way that the ball kind of just rotates, and by the time they get to the corner, that's when they can beat the Warriors. And it's like, okay, that pass, the Warriors are trailing. That pass, Warriors are trailing even more. That pass, Warriors are trailing even more. And then by the time you get to the corner, it's wide open. That's I don't I get defensive rotation, but how about maybe instead of giving the corner three, how about we give up the one at the top of the key? Because that's generally the harder one to make, right? So instead of trying to cover our tracks, why don't we go, okay, you can shoot that top three, but we're just going to make sure you don't actually get to the corner three. Like, that's the thing that frustrates me. It's just like, why does it work that way? What do you think about this? Has been a big story this week in the NBA about the referees and the way they're calling the games now, where they're not calling any fouls, which is probably an overcorrection because they were calling way too many fouls. And, we saw last year scoring was at a record level. And this year, they've actually reversed the trend here in the second half, and scoring is actually down. I didn't even really recognize it because the Warriors don't get calls anyways.
Exactly. I was about to say, I didn't recognize it at all until I listened to the Bill Simmons and Russillo pod. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was a thing. But I remember Fitz brought it up in the broadcast against the Spurs where he was like saying that he prefers this type of less free throws than
let them play through it. Yeah. It's a smart call, smart non-call. Love the non-call. That's a Fitzism right there. But I agreed with him, and I generally agree with him, except when the Warriors get called for ticky-tack ones. Some of it is just because some of their players are ticky-tack defenders, but it's like you see Steph get clubbed, and then there's a non-call, and then Kuminga reaches in, and he's got the hand in the cookie jar, and he just looks at the referee like he got caught trying to take a cookie. And so I would prefer, if you're going to call it that way, I'd prefer the less foul calls because it actually helps the Warriors defensively to not have these silly fouls called all the time.
Yeah, I didn't notice it until I heard a podcast that they actually tried to correct it post All-Star break. So it's been for a while now, and I haven't really noticed it. So again, probably because the Warriors, they don't really get foul calls to begin with, so I haven't really noticed it.
So the Warriors are currently in the 10 spot. They're pretty comfortably in that 10 spot. They're 4 games ahead of the Rockets as of this recording. Though, if the Rockets could play a little bit better basketball on the road, they could make it a little bit tighter. The Rockets are an excellent home team and just a terrible road team, but they have also won 3 in a row, and they are 6-4 in their last 10.
They also just lost Şengün for the year, though.
Right, they did, and he was balling.
He was their best player. They just lost their best player.
Awesome. Yeah. So they're probably gonna make that play-in game unless things just completely fall apart. And we saw if Steph, I know he practiced in Santa Cruz. Draymond's back injury, a little bit underreported, but you got to go back a little while and remember how he missed all that time
last year.
Calf. Was it last year when he had the calf thing?
Or was it 21, 22? Was it the championship year or was it last year?
I don't exactly remember what it was, but he had the little calf thing, which they said was a back thing, remember? Mm-hmm. And there was worry about whether he was going to come back, and he's been playing. So whenever I hear back and Draymond, I get a little uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, why is there no information?
That was our fear of, him having to play small ball 5 extensively. And it needed to happen based on the roster construction. So, and then, yeah, so when I saw lower back, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that's not great for someone who's getting a little older, right? Like he is. And since he's been back, since he's came back from the suspension, I think he's been playing really good basketball. I think it was the last San Antonio game that they actually won. I think he was overpassing and turning the ball over, probably because he figured that, without Steph, he needed to get some of these guys good shots, and maybe he's overdoing it. But other than that, like, I think he's been really good. And Steph and Draymond are so connected, and it just makes you wonder, like, why aren't Draymond and Clay as connected? Why aren't, why can't uh if Steph and Draymond and Clay play well together, how come when Draymond and Steph is out, they don't play well? But when Clay is not and Clay is out, they don't seem to miss him as much. Now it's probably just because Draymond and Steph have the ball and the offense and defensive focus so much around them. Did it frustrate you at all how it just seems like these are some like premier opportunities for Clay to turn back the clock a few years, and you're just like hoping for it? You're like, okay, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And then you get like a dud like last night. It was just so bad.
It's been feeling like that since he came back. Like, you'll get a few of them and they feel really good. Like, I think he, was it Chicago or was it that first Spurs game that he kind of started off hot? And I mean, some of those shots he was taking in the first Dallas game was like, it's just like, dude, like, I don't know how many times I've got to imagine you've heard, like, don't force it, let it come to you. And he just continues to, every few games chuck that out of the window and be like, nah, it's got to be me today. And he's probably right where it needs to be him in some of these moments. But when he forces it, it just makes things worse. And he's not making, if he's forcing it and not making it, it makes the issue worse.
So
Yeah.
in the last 4 games, the Bulls game, he was 5 of 12 from 3. He had 25 points. The first
I call that a
Spurs,
good Clay game, to be honest.
yeah, he was a 9 of 21, not great, but 5 of 12 is actually really good for him for the high volume. The next game against the Spurs, which is the one that they lost, so they lost the 2 games in a row, he was actually 8 for 16 and 5 of 10 from 3.
I don't even think he played in the fourth quarter. They kind of
And
just kicked that one.
yeah, and so he had 27. And then in the second Spurs game, 4 of 10 from 3, 8 of 21 from the field.
Eesh.
So not terrible, but because no Steph, no Draymond. I mean, no Steph for that game. His minutes were up, and then no Steph, no Draymond last night. 3 of 13, 2 of 7 from 3, 8 points. And
Oh yeah, they said he shot today's date.
some of those were just like, it is your job responsibility as somebody who makes as much money as you do. Like some of these were like not hard shots. It's like, okay, Clay, he's kind of got pushed off the 3-point line. He's snaking his way in, pull up 17-footer, and it was like a line drive off the front of the rim. I imagine it's a legs thing. It always is, and he's got to deal with both of those injuries. It's not something he's doing on purpose, obviously, but it's just like so maddening, frustrating, because that guy will make that shot in warmups 1,000 times in a row, and then when during the game and they're relying on him, they're trying to come back, and it's just like not there. There was another time, this was pretty bad actually. It's early in the game. So he actually he drives into the middle, and I think he's waiting for the defender to step up. The defender doesn't step up. They kind of like bait him to keep coming, and as we saw last night, Lively and is it Gafford?
Gafford.
They're just kind of waiting for the Warriors to even sniff the paint, because they just want to just grab everything out of the air and reject it. So you can tell it's on Clay's mind, but it's like he gets pushed off the 3-point line, and it's like, oh, open 18-footer. Nope, keeps dribbling. Oh, Open 15-footer. Nope, keeps dribbling. Oh, open 10-footer, passes it out. And then I think they tried to throw it back to him, and he hits it out of bounds, and he's like, "Nope, that's our ball. That's our ball." And I was like, "Dude, it's right off of your hands. What are you talking about?" But it was just like he's thinking, it's almost like he's thinking too much because he can hit an open 18-footer, an open 15-footer, an open 10-footer. He can hit that shot with his eyes closed. Why isn't he just pulling up and drilling that thing instead of maybe thinking that he's got to take it to the hole and try to get to the line? I don't actually know what he was thinking, but it was just like, just play hoop. Like you're like a great player. Maybe the athleticism isn't there anymore, but man, it just seems like he's overthinking things, and it just kills their offense when he just doesn't do the thing that the defense gives him, because the defense is running him off that 3-point line, but also at the same time, it's not like they're funneling him in certain directions. Like, oh, when you get moved off the 3-point line, only the best defender is going to be able to stay with you off of your dribble. So when he slides and you take that first dribble and stop and pop, and it's a good shot for him. But I don't know. I don't know what he was doing last night. But yeah, I think that was the most frustrating part of the game, is knowing that, okay, who's your best player on the floor? It's Kuminga. But Dallas was playing Kuminga as if he did not want to shoot at all. And when you see Kuminga start to back it in from like 18 feet in, I'm like, oh, he doesn't want to shoot that jumper. And then secondary, it's like, okay, CP, but CP doesn't force anything. He doesn't create shots for himself.
I wish he would get more aggressive in these moments where there's no Steph. Clay's quite frankly not feeling it. And it's like, okay, just pick and roll Trace Jackson Davis and mid range. Like that's your patented stuff. And I don't know. I've never watched CP to the length that I'm watching him now, every game as opposed to just the playoffs. But I thought he was more aggressive, but he is older. But I thought that, the playoffs, like that, we're not too far removed from when he went like 16 for 16 in the playoffs against the Pelicans like 2 or 3 years ago. So yeah, I don't understand why, I feel like this was an opportune time for him to. He even said in like the post-game interview after that second Spurs game with Fitz and Buki that, he was saying he needs to get his shot. He needs to start shooting more. And, I, again, haven't finished the Mavericks game, but I'm about halfway through and I'm like, why is this guy not shooting more?
Why is he not driving and baiting? Well, some of it is the teams are like, okay, we're going to kind of give him some of this stuff because we know that he's more effective helping other guys get open. And so they're kind of sagging. It's what I said. Remember in the beginning of the season, I was like, what's going to happen when they cover up the Warriors shooters and they force Chris to be the one to take the open shot? Is he going to take it? I was not sure that he was going to take it, and he doesn't really take it. He did. I think it was the second Spurs game where he did get on a roll, and then Fitz is talking about how his 3-point percentage is up to 38% after the terrible start. It's like 38% is pretty good. I don't remember a ton of them, though. I don't remember like these very important
like 2 a game.
Yeah. So, he needs to do something, especially when there's no Steph and when Clay's just having fits. Like he needs to be the guy to score the basketball. I think he tried a little bit yesterday, but that was like such a weird game, I think, for some of those guys, is because Dallas, they have those 2 long shot blockers, and then Kyrie and Luka are just handling the ball constantly. And it's like an interesting matchup for the Warriors where it becomes just this grinded out game. And so you see Kuminga actually had a pretty good game, but it wasn't an easy 27 for him. That dude was playing hard. And if he would have only had a little bit of help, they might have been closer. But
was it only a 10-point game?
Well, they actually were down, was it 6 at the half, and then they snuck in. I want to say they may have tied it early in the third, and then quickly again it was like 10 or something. But Moses Moody, you just expect him to be a little bit more athletic but he gets stuck in games like this where like he's going hard and then all of a sudden he loses his dribble and then he's trapped and he's got to jump out of bounds to throw it. And it's just like stuff like that where you just wish there was a little bit more rhythm to the skill set. It's like boom, boom, boom. Moody gets into his euro and but no, he's got to like dribble into traffic, jump stop, pump fake, pump fake, pump fake. I just wish that
a little like Kavan, where they both have like an athletic stature, but Looney.
You wonder why whenever when you guys were small and you guys were playing basketball, I always used to say, like, handle is so important. And JJ had a pretty good handle. Like, I think you had to play a lot more guard earlier when you were in middle school and stuff. But like handle is literally the most important thing, because if you have a handle, you can escape so many opportunities. But guys like Moses Moody, he gets stuck because of his handle. Like Kuminga literally just needs to dribble with his left hand like all summer long.
Yeah, his handle's not tight at all.
And now that Clay's athleticism is gone, you really see his lack of handle, right? Because he can't get the separation. Clay's favorite move is to use his offhand to push the defender away from him as he's dribbling. I have no idea why he doesn't get called for this every single time, but he does it. Every time he handles the ball, he uses his offhand to push the defender out. But handle is so important. Like Moses, Kuminga, even Pajemski. Pajemski has a pretty good handle, but he needs to do more of the Euro stuff. He did a layup yesterday where it was 2-on-1 and Moody probably passed it a half a second too early. But Pajemski did that thing where he does the one-handed windup for the layup. And that thing
it's disgusting.
Got snatched out of the air. And it's like he's got to do that creative stuff in order to get to the bucket. He needs to do it like every single time, because when he does it, and it's the Luka thing, right? Luka has that long Euro where the defender's already jumped and out of the picture by the time he finishes it. The players got to do more of that stuff if you don't have that Kyrie handle. Kyrie doesn't have to do it because he's quick and he's got like the greatest handle. Steph doesn't have to do it, right? You don't ever see Steph Euro. Steph's just going because he's got the handle. But yeah, they some of these guys, I'm just gobsmacked how they don't have that in their game in 2024. Okay,
I mean, some people don't have 3-point shots in 2024.
Yeah, but depending on the size of your hands and depending on the size, like it can be harder for some guys, especially if the way that basketball works today, where it's the AAU system's all about athleticism and stuff, and the some of the skill sets don't seem to be created enough or actually repped enough. Like I just remember that conversation I had with Jim Barnett. He's like, Klay Thompson and Harrison Barnes, they just need to block themselves in the gym. They need to play one-on-one, full court, 3 dribbles, because in that type of drill, they will have to create moves in order to beat the other guy. They'll have to be more creative. They'll have to learn what is deficient. And then I was like, well, Harrison was at UNC for 2 years. They're not teaching him that stuff. And Barnett was like, are you kidding? Like, they don't know how to teach that stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that about basketball, about college hoops or whatever. But okay, let's look at the playoff picture in this last segment of the show. Like I said,
how many games are left?
Warriors have 17 games left. They are 34-31. Lakers are 36-31. So the Warriors have 2 less games played. They play the Lakers 2 more times this year. The Mavericks are 3.5 games above the Warriors. The Suns are 4 games above the Warriors. The Kings, tied with the Suns, are also 4 games above the Warriors. I think like where you'd want to get is that if 6 is not doable, and 6 and 7 are pretty much the same spot right now, but I know the Warriors aren't great with any of these tiebreakers because their conference record is so bad. But if you could get to 7, then you only got to play that one play-in game if you get that spot, right? And then you get some rest. But if you get like 9 or 10, that's a lot of games before you get to the playoffs if you win those games. That's a scary proposition to me because we've already talked about how poorly they match up against the Lakers. If the Lakers are 9 and the Warriors are 10, or even the other way around, the Warriors are 9, Lakers are 10, I'm not really confident in that game as
I
a
wouldn't
one.
be either. But then imagine who they're going to have to play in the next game: Phoenix or Sacramento, probably, right? or
I would
Dallas. And
I'd actually be more comfortable playing Sacramento and Dallas. Phoenix, depending on how healthy they are, because Durant's been run down, at the end of the end of these seasons.
yeah, but
But
this is also hypothetically after like a grueling must-win one game against the Lakers.
yes,
Like,
yes, that
and this is all for the 8th seed at this point, where you have to play the Denver Nuggets in the first round. Like, this
yeah,
season's over.
you're just kind of
Season's
hoping it's
over.
OKC. But like I said, if you get to 7, you can get that 7 spot and have to only win that one game to get to 7. That is I think that's a decent spot. Now, 7 plays 2, so, then with our luck, it's like, "Oh, the Denver Nuggets,
Denver
they
Nuggets.
they don't care. They're gonna let OKC or
And who
Minnesota
throws
win
a play-in game to dodge a team when playoffs aren't guaranteed? They'd
No,
get
it's
bad
it
karma
bec
if they
it
threw
it
the
bec
first play-in game.
it becomes must win. You just go out and you gotta win. So, what is the realistic scenario for you? Are we looking at the 9-10 game no matter what you think?
I
Steve
just
Kerr thinks they can win 10 in a row, he said.
he said that tonight. He said that after the Spurs. I think that unless they like put together like a streak of games where it's, we don't get the same feeling as last year where, oh, 3-game heater, 3-game losing streak. Like, I just need to, we have 17 left. You only need to make up a 4-game difference. It's not only, it's still a lot because you have to depend on the other guys losing and you winning, but it's not out of the picture. I just don't really believe in them. Like, even Steph himself has probably not been a top 5 player this year.
I think the Ringer had him at number 7 in their top
that
100.
that feels relatively okay. Even then, I feel like I've been quite underwhelmed with that guy this season. There's so much put on him. Like, that you lose Jordan Poole as a 20-point per game scorer and you replace him with CP, who's just assist. But yeah, I mean, I just think the pathway to a good season, we knew it, we said it, and this just feels like a wasted year. Like, it's just looking tough no matter how you slice it. Like, yeah, imagine we do all this to get to the 7th seed, win the first play-in game against Sacramento, and then we get to go play Denver in the first round. Like, I know we always say like, yeah, we like probably match up better than Denver than most teams, but I feel like the KCP recent quote was kind of telling on like who they actually are worried about. Like, they're not worried about the Warriors anymore. When's the last time we've beaten them? And we always say like, we probably match up relatively well against Denver. Well, it's because we beat them when they didn't have Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. They didn't have KCP, and they just had Aaron Gordon corner, and we were just leaving him wide open because he was their second best option. It's just so. I don't think we win that series today, and
I don't either.
so it's just like, yeah, I want OKC, but like, it's just, I mean, if like they're not winning a championship. If you need to like try and like maneuver your way on the back end of the standings to try and get the preferred matchup, like you're not gonna win. So
What do you think? Now, I don't think you heard a Warriors plus minus yet. That just came out
I
earlier
haven't.
today. But Marcus Thompson said you want them to get into that playoff series because Kuminga and Moody and Pajemski and TJD, they need playoff reps. They need to understand the difference in the second season. I think that's interesting. Like, that you'd rather have them get those reps than not get those reps. I would
Yeah, but
love
I
to
think they
see,
all should be traded for Giannis next year. So what does that mean?
but they're not though. They're not going to be traded for Giannis. I mean, it's a great dream. I would love to see Giannis on this team, but
Well, the reality is, if they don't get like an all-star caliber player in the offseason, like whether that be, really just name your all-star, that
who's even
like, I mean,
available.
it's cooked. It's Labrizzo.
LeBron he has flashes for sure of where you're like, dang, this dude at 39 years old or whatever. But it
It'd be
just
fun to watch.
it looks a little
Yeah, he was terrible against the Kings.
It's almost like to a lesser, obviously it's not the same as the Clay thing, but like you see Clay going like, I can I can do this. Like this shot that I'm taking right here, like how come it's not going in when it's always gone in? And you can kind of see the same thing with LeBron sometimes where he's
but with LeBron, it's like, okay, like, yeah, you're having an off night. You look like maybe the 20th best player in the NBA, but there's nights where he looks like the best player in the NBA. I gotta imagine
what was
that
the one game against the Clippers when
right? Like he just
he
took
brought them
over
all the way back.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, I mean, my synopsis is like, I mean, we took the easy way out with the fix for the season was go get Siakam. It'll be as easy as that. And we never got to really see what that would look like. And to me, it still feels like the right thing was just to get a second option. And I'm gonna go in with that mindset. I mean, I guess the someone to combat my take would probably say like, well, JK can be that, and he needs the playoff reps, which I guess I'd understand.
He also just needs to take like 1,000 jump shots like a day.
I mean, that three's been kind of going in. I haven't seen the rest of them. I think he hit one at least in the first half of the Mavs. He hit one against the Spurs, two against the Spurs, something like that.
Struggles to go in though.
But he hadn't been taking any. It's in the past like 10 to 15 games. So at least he's like
your guy Mo Moody, man. He cannot buy one. They're not even.
Do you remember when I tweeted last year? I was like, what happened to Moses Moody's 3-point shot? Like I was able to clip together his last 25 3-point attempts and only like 3 went in. I wonder what time of the year that was, because that'd be kind of funny if both of these shooting slumps are lining up in the exact same time, and Moses Moody is just anti-Moses March, anti-March Moody.
All right. The Warriors and the Lakers play on Saturday night, which is kind of a fun game. Saturday night on ABC, Warriors and Lakers. Hopefully, Steph and Draymond are both back for that game, but it is in LA, which could be a bad thing for depending. I guess it's late enough in the. I'd be more worried if it was a morning game. But that's the kind of game that they're going to have to win if they want to get on a run. Then they have the Knicks on Monday evening at Chase. They have Memphis on Wednesday evening at Chase, and they have Indiana on Friday evening at Chase.
JJ's going to that game.
And then,
well, do you want to know a fun stat about Indiana?
And then Sunday. So they have 4 games. Or no, the Sunday game is actually in Minnesota. So they have 3 games coming up at home on this next homestand, 3 in a row.
All right, Indiana. We have yet to beat them at Chase Center. In all the years we've been at Chase, Indiana has not lost at Chase Center.
I wonder why.
You remember last year with like Andrew Nemhard's like 31 or 32 ball?
I remember.
And then I went to the year before where GP2 like got head to head with Goga Batatste and got the big center kicked out of the game, and then Justin Holiday hits a buzzer beater on Steph from the 3-point line because Steph forgot to guard him, and that ended that game.
Was that the comeback game, or was the comeback game the last year game?
I don't think we came back last year.
Because there was a game where the Warriors were winning. They were up.
I think it was Indiana. That one where Justin Holiday hit the shot.
Okay. So
because that Nemhard one was just like one of those like back-to-backs on a Tuesday night where the Warriors were just like not there, and this kid just completely took control. Who doesn't even get like substantial minutes.
So big game against Lakers, and then 3 games at home.
And you don't even get excited about the home games because their record is like under 500.
They're 500. But this is the switch that they need to make, right? New York at home, Memphis. They got to beat Memphis.
New York's got home. Oh yeah, Memphis is probably the worst bottom 3 team in the league with their current roster, and then I think New York got OG back. I think
New York is still 4th in the East.
It's pretty wild. Like they've been missing Julius Randle and OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell all year, but the other two guys,
Pacers are playing right now. They're
they
behind
lost to
76ers.
DeRozan, your guy DeRozan.
The professional scorer, DeMar DeRozan.
Behind the Sixers is nuts. Yeah, that Pacers team, they need.
It's kind of funny. The Hawks at 29-36 with no Trae Young are still number 10.
Yeah, the East is a joke, man. The East outside of like the Celtics are just underwhelming.
And if the Raptors hadn't lost 5 in a row, they'd be right in the mix for that 10 spot.
Mm-hmm.
The East, yeah, that's gross.
Because no Scotty, baby.
Is it because he broke his finger against the Warriors?
Against
right?
the Warriors, yeah, he's basically done for the year.
Oh God, that sucks. All right, so we will be back probably next Thursday because the Warriors do have an off day, unless Brian's work just works him to the bone. We'll see. We'll figure that one out. And I did get him a light for those of you who are watching on video. He just needs to set it up. It is the same light as mine, so hopefully it'll lighten up his background there. And yeah, we are in the last 17 games of the season, so we'll see what happens. I would love to the Warriors get to 7, but it is looking like that 9-10 play-in spot is more likely, just because there's a big difference right now. 3.5 games when it's 30 games left in the season is not that much, but 3.5 games when there's 17 games, it just seems like there's not enough games left for them to catch them. But we'll see. Weirder things have happened. All right. Well, one last thing. Are you going to get a women's tournament bracket going?
Oh, I should.
We should do it, and then we'll post it in the Discord, and we'll tweet it out if folks want to be part of it. I don't want to even fill out a men's bracket. I only want to fill out a women's bracket.
I don't even know the men's teams at all, but
I know one player in the men's NCAA college.
Bronny James.
Bronny James. It's the only one I know.
U of A is actually really good this year too.
Are they?
I'm pretty sure. I haven't been paying. I've been paying attention to one of the U of A girls team. But yeah, and speaking of the women's bracket, I'm pretty sure the Warriors have an all women's broadcast on Monday against the Knicks. I think I thought it was cool because I've been following a lot of those girls for a long time. Like Zena Keita has appeared on a few plus minus. She's like does some work with the Athletic. She used to be like the Santa Cruz broadcast and sideline reporter.
She's gonna do the game.
I've been following her for a while. I don't know if she's doing broadcast, but it's an all women's, like, who even replacing like Festus and Molly just for one game, and
that's
and Fitz and Buki are being replaced for a game. So like
Kareth
Berg.
They should bring
Laura
bring Roz back for a game.
Yeah, Roz is too Hollywood for us now.
She's too big time.
Yeah.
Oh, the woman who does the studio for the Giants, is that?
I think she's going to be there. Is that Laura?
I think
Britt? So. I might have been reading a few names incorrectly, but I recognize most of them.
Okay, well, that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be something to watch for. All right, big game against the Lakers. Let's just blow these dudes. Let's just make LeBron sad. No, I don't dislike LeBron. I just dislike the Lakers. So, all right, we will be back next week. For Bri, I am Double GC. When we see you, peace out.